Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Standard 15 and Open Nationals at Lasham 2021. Those of you who are Lasham members are going to be familiar with our virtual briefing, but those of you who are visitors, this may be a new concept to you. There may be some teething problems as we go through this process, but just ask you all to bear with us. The chat function is disabled for the duration of the Zoom meeting, but if you do have any questions, please use the chat function. We'll have someone monitoring the chat function, and hopefully we'll be able to resolve your questions. Any questions we can't immediately resolve during the course of the briefing, we'll send out a question and the answer following the meeting via Zoom. Hopefully you should all be on the grid by now, and hopefully you should have all have received the task sheets via the RoboControl email. Just some church notices from Gavin today. If you haven't received the COVID brief, please let the competition organisation know, preferably email the control@Lasham email address, and we get the briefing sent out to you. Just a point of note today for people who are wishing to access the airfield, the Lasham village is closed to vehicle access due to a wedding, so please can you avoid. Pilot Safety Committee. On the Pilot Safety Committee we have George Metcalf, Darren Francis and Graham McAndrew, and we do have Richard for reserve. Competition stewards, we have Fandy Darlington, Pete Masson and Ed Foxon. Okay, now we're just going to go on to the initial airspace brief, which is going to be covered by Colin Rule.
Good morning, everyone. This is going to be maybe a little more protracted than we would normally make it, but it's got to be done. Right, relevant for the whole duration of the competition. The current airspace file is version 1, 15-meter standard open airspace Lasham 2021.txt. Any changes we'll confirm at each competition briefing, and just a heads up, there will be a revised airspace file from probably Monday. And the caveat at the end, if you require any information, please ask and we'll do our best to provide it. The following sites are declared active for the duration of the competition and will be scored as penalty zones. They're the standard ones, you'll all know it, but we're going to say them again. Weston on the Green, Hinton on the Hedges, Hinton in the Hedges, Sibson, Langar, Chatteris. Other parachuting sites will be considered active unless we can confirm that they are inactive. So the default there is they are active. Aldermaston and Burfield, two restricted areas which will come into play quite actively today, I suspect. The areas are Romeo 101 and Romeo 104. We've been granted a relaxation, as we have for a number of years now, so that we can fly closer to these conditions. These conditions are all published in the local rules. You may not fly below 2,000 feet above ground within the boundary of the establishment, but outside of that, it's normal air navigation order rules, so down to 500 feet or so. No landings to be made within the establishment boundary. No photography of a nuclear installation is permitted, and they always put this one in. You must be flying glider with a minimum published L/D of 30. So no daglings, please. All UK danger areas are penalty zones during their notified active hours, apart from those annotated as applicable to helicopters only. This may be a change from usual. It's the formula that we adopted during the Europeans here in 2017. So for any removal of doubt, all UK danger areas are penalty zones during their notified active hours, apart from the helicopter ones. Compton Box. Okay, there's the picture. It's closed today, so I'm not going to make a great deal of it. When we have it open, if we have it open, I will run through that one again. Odium ATZ is a penalty zone at all times during the competition. Do not fly into it. Our neighbours, we have a good relationship with neighbouring airfields, Popham particularly, Odium and Brimpton. If you're forced to land at any of them or are scratching away in their close proximity, please give them a call, and I'm listing the appropriate frequencies there. Popham is probably the most relevant. Brimpton could be, although that will be a little clearer on the next slide. Odium is a penalty zone, so you're not going to be scratching away close to them, are you? If you do land at Popham, please pull off the side of the runway. They're running there because of the COVID restrictions on minimum staffing, and they don't have the bodies to come out and meet you and drag you off the side. So if you can, once you've landed, pull off onto the uncut grass rather than staying on a nicely mown runway there. Brimpton is currently being used for filming. They've issued a NOTAM, and the airfield is officially closed. The runway is obstructed with film crews, film sets, all the paraphernalia that goes with making a film. So to keep our good relationship with them, which we would like to do, please respect that the airfield is closed and do not land there. You're quite likely to bump into something. Frequencies will be probably reported elsewhere as well, that there they are. And would you please prefix all calls with the word Lasham? Apart from everything else, this stops you clipping your call sign. So we get your call sign, which is the important bit we want to hear. Transponders, some of you lucky enough to have a transponder. We've done a little bit of clarification on this. If you carry a transponder, you are free to use it to squawk a conspicuity code or to select a listening squawk and listen out on the appropriate frequency. That is perfectly within the rules and has been agreed with the contest committee. Today's update, Chiltern Park parachuting site is active and will be scored as a penalty zone. Compton Box is closed. The Keyville TDA, temporary danger area, temporary restricted airspace, is not active. The airfield is active, but it is not a penalty zone. So just to say, this strange shaped box around Keyville is not there today. And that's really, I think, all we have. And I'll hand over now for the weather.
Thanks, Colin. Over to you, Colin Watt, for the weather.
Okay, thanks. I'll actually find weather presentation. Okay, for those of you that are Lasham members, you'll be familiar with this sort of briefing that we go through every day. It'll be very similar, perhaps in slightly more detail on today's weather. And I won't actually be looking too far ahead into tomorrow, the next few days. We'll just see what happens with those. So this is the midday chart. It's still effectively almost a bit of a low pressure swirling around here. And things are just rotating around us. Very slack easterly flow over most of the southern part of the country. I suppose a well space, that's for sure. And you can see these fronts here to the south. They're going to come into play later on today and partly for tomorrow. So just a quick look at the the TAFs out of interest. Farnborough giving 100 degrees, 7 knots, 10 kVs, broken at 1300, which is probably what it was an hour ago, becoming scattered at 3.5. So it's heading that way fairly rapidly now. And sometime tempo late this afternoon, sort of anytime 5, 6 o'clock, prob 30 showers. So that's something to be aware of for later. And upper winds, they're light easterly, 10 knots at best. Sat pics are showing the interesting things. This stuff over us disappearing, breaking up fairly quickly, temperatures rising quite nicely, but there's still a moist layer across the Midlands, which is taking a while to sort of break up and rise. But that'll get better later in that area. And the infrared shows this wodge of cloud here. And this is where we're going to have the issue over us this afternoon. It's curling round and it's going to track back towards us later in the day, principally as a sort of upper and mid-level cloud feature, which will start to kill the soaring conditions from the south towards us later in the afternoon. So temperature-wise now, temperature's building quite nicely, and I think we're going to see probably round here and to the south of us 21, 22 degrees. Temperature further north under that sort of cloud blanket is not going up so quickly, but as I say, that will change during the sort of morning and early afternoon. Dew points, they're currently around about 10, 11, but they should be heading down to somewhere around 7s, hopefully, over the sort of area, really Bicester south in this area here. So playing with those sort of numbers into the soundings, we get this at Lasham by 1 o'clock. So I think chances around here are that it'll sort of begin to blue out by 1, 2 o'clock. Still be 3,500 feet probably up around here, maybe even 4,000 feet above sea level. And the beginnings of the upper cloud showing its hand here. By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you can see the lines much, much closer together all the way up through here, and conditions in here beginning to change quite noticeably. So I think it's reverting more or less to sort of local soaring conditions by mid to late afternoon around Lasham area. But further north and further west, this is sort of the northwest of the region of the task area. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, wouldn't be surprised if you don't see cloud base, possibly near 5,000 feet above sea level. Cloud tops around 6 to 7. So pretty good in that area. And the upper cloud beginning to show its hand, you can see there in that area as well. And I've just had a quick look at what would be the Bicester Buckingham area for the afternoon. And again, it shows cloud base up around 5,000 feet and beginning to see the evidence of the upper cloud. Top Meteo and Skysight pretty much agree with each other. Today, we're looking at 11 o'clock, 3,000 feet. I think probably by 10:30 to 11, 2.5 above Lasham should be a sort of reasonable number. And then moving from there by early afternoon, they're showing 1,500 meters, so 4,500 feet around the Lasham area, and getting better as you see further to the north, because it was this damp, soggy air north of Oxford is beginning to dry out. And what it looks like is the area of good weather is just slowly moving north. So 2 hours later, this is 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we've still got 1,400 meters around Lasham, but better air all the way up to beyond Oxford with 1,800 meters around here. So good air mass in that middle section of the country, And then, as you can see, by 4 or 5 o'clock round Lasham, partly the upper cloud, and I suspect the influence of the sea air as well coming in will begin to kill it off over us. Cloud amounts from 12 o'clock, we're beginning to see there's the cumulus in here, and it should be quite nice, but you can see the amount of upper cloud beginning to creep in here for the part of the afternoon. Hopefully it won't cause too much of a problem getting back into Lasham later in the day. So predicted distance from top Meteo and sky sight, virtually the same, in the same sort of area, which is the area you're going to task in. Best in the southern part of the country up to Oxford and out towards Bristol, Gloucester area out into the Cotswolds. So good area there. Okay, folks, so fingers crossed, good day. I would hope we'll be looking at it from about 11 o'clock for first launch. Okay, Henry, back over to you.
Okay, just one further note on the Farnborough airspace following questions or notification through the chat. So, Colin.
Yes, the question was asked, why haven't we spoken about the Farnborough airspace? Perhaps we should have done. I'd hope people would have perhaps looked at their charts and looked at the task sheets, which do show it. But yes, do be aware, Farnborough airspace nowadays is very close to the area of Lasham. Just be very careful, particularly if you're going anywhere east. In fact, don't go anywhere east of Lasham, basically, is about all we can say, I think. So just be very aware. Farnborough will be very much aware of what we're doing.
Thank you, Colin. All right, so over to day one tasks now. Following Colin's weather brief, we've set 2 tasks for each of the 15 standards and the opens. And just a quick reminder, actually, task sheets. So task sheets can be downloaded from Robo Control. You should have received them via email, and printed sheets are available from Control. So as we said, we set a couple of tasks for each of the groups. So open class task A is 353.7 kilometres. Start Basingstoke West, out to Wickworth, Didcot Rail Bridge, Bradford on Avon, Reading West, and then back to Airfield Reference Point, Lasham. Task B, 303.1 kilometres. A little bit of reduction on that task. Basingstoke West is the start. Whitmore, Didcot Rail Bridge, Cliff Pippard, Pangbourne, and Airfield Reference Points. Standards and 15s, you'll be doing the same task, although scored separately. For you, start is Candover Church, Whitmore, Didcot Rail Bridge, Cliff Pippard, Pangbourne, and Airfield Reference Point. And the fallback of task B, Candover Church, start Brinkworth, Aberdeen Bridge, Avebury, Pangbourne, and Airfield Reference Point. Airfield out and finishing. Colin, I'm just going to hand back over to yourself if you want to come off mute.
Yeah, thanks, Henry. Airfield layout, we're on 09, folks, and I think you're all gridding in roughly the right place. We might have to have a bit of a shuffle round just so we can compact the grid a little bit, but we'll let you know about that actually when we get out there. Next slide, Henry. Okay, so club operations are on the north side grass, and all club pilots have been instructed to circuit to the north and land and operate grass north side. Essentially today, all landings will be in an easterly direction. There shouldn't be a position where you're thinking about going round. Even if you do go round, you still land easterly. So you as competitors have the runway and the 2 marked grass areas to the south. just be aware that this area right down to the south here, if you do roll off this way, is quite bumpy. The sort of areas between the runway and the cross runway, the grass and the cross runways, fine to roll across, but it is bumpy down to the south. And also be aware that we've marked here a sort of zone where you don't stick your wing in north of the runway, so to avoid any conflict with club operations, which will still be going on the north side. If you can land long, folks, reminder, and then tow back back to the parking area. Okay, Henry, next slide. Say club operations active on the north side of the airfield. It's highly recommended that you don't park any gliders on the north side, because we've got evening flying operation and winching taking place once the comp's finished, and you don't want your glider parked out when there's student pilots landing back to the hangar late in the evening. It's also recommended that you park a glider on the south side of the airfield. There's plenty of parking areas down near Charlie's Field or down near the Black Hangar Studios. Okay, folks, that's me, Henry.
Thanks, Colin. Okay, finishing, please call 10K and finish channel or 131030 today, please. Scoring, please submit your trace within an hour of landing. Any questions? As you said, we've disabled the talk function on the Zoom. So if there's any further questions, please come find myself at control, or come and find me out on the grid, and we'll try and answer those. And then if it's relevant, we'll try and publish those answers for everyone to see what they are. First launch, not before 11 o'clock. Last launch today at 1800, and next briefing 10 o'clock tomorrow. That's all from us, folks. So we'll see you all out on the grid. Thanks very much.